Hello, my beautiful people, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, and welcome if you are new. I am so happy to be here, and I am so happy that you guys are here today. Today's video is a very fun one. We are going to be talking about all of the books that I read in the month of February. Now, February was a really good reading month for me. I ended up reading 9 books. I think in my March TBR I said 10. Apparently I can't count. It was only 9 completed books. However, this month was a lot of fun. I found 2 really good books, some all-time favorites that I am so excited to be adding to my collection. So I cannot wait to talk to you guys about all of the books that I read in the month of February. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and let's hop right into all of the books that I read in February. The first book that I ended up reading in the month of March should be no surprise. It was another Catherine Cowell, and it was Shadows of You. So this book is perhaps one of my favorite books in the Lost and Found series. I am tied between it being Whispers of You, which is the first book in the series, and Shadows of You, which is the 4th book in the series, as my favorite because they're both so good. This book is about our main male character, Roan. He is very detached from his family and very gruff. You learn more about his history in the other books, but also in this book, and why he is a bit more of a recluse and like removed from his family. He works for Forest Animal Services, so if there is a wild animal, he gets called out and he helps deal with the issue. And that also promoted a very interesting aspect to this storyline that we get in this book. We then have Aspen, who is our heroine in hiding, who has escaped to the small town of Cedar Ridge with her daughter Katie, and you learn more about Aspen's history as well. It's another romantic suspense. You guys should not be surprised at this point what Catherine's books are about. I was so intrigued by like the murder plotline that was happening in this book, and it was absolutely fantastic. The way that Roan's character's like job played a role in this story was so good. I also loved Roan's relationship with Aspen's daughter Katie because they were so cute. She calls him Mr. Grizz. He is like the gruffest, most grumpy man you've ever met, and he is the absolute sweetest. Like his heart just melts for this little girl, and it is so cute to watch. His protectiveness over Aspen was delightful, and just the little pieces that all connect their story together was so lovely to read about. My neighbor just decided to start mowing their lawn, so if you can hear that, I do apologize. I don't have any windows open, but like I can hear it, so you guys probably can too, but if you can't, like ignore me. The next book that I read in the month of February was Killers of a Certain Age. This book is about 4 retiring assassins who are like not so subtly being taken out by the organization that they used to work for. Now, this was very interesting to me because I love assassins apparently. I don't know. I like am very much in my like true crime spy movie like situation, and so this I thought would fit right into that. I enjoyed the story. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, I think, because I did have some issues with the book. I think that I wanted more differentiation between the 4 old ladies because I did find it a bit hard to figure out who was who or like remember who was who. Like there wasn't enough of a distinction for me personally. It could have been that I was listening to it on audio to and from school, but that's how I listen to all my audiobooks. But again, it could have just been me, but I would have liked a little bit more distinction. It did also feel a bit rushed towards the end, and things were like a bit coincidental of things just kept going right for our characters, even though they were like cool badass assassins. So there's that. But I really did like the flashes back in time when we got to see them as young women learning how to be an assassin, or like the different missions that they went on, and then their present day on this cruise as older women, and like their bonds still being there even though life had taken them in so many different directions. I thought that that was interesting. Overall, it was like a fine read. It's nothing that really gripped me or like had me like held in a chokehold, but it also wasn't bad, so I gave it 3.5 stars. We then have my next book, which was Ashes of You by Catherine Cowell. I ended up giving this book 3 stars because I love Cedar Ridge. I love seeing the characters from previous books in the series, but this book didn't entirely work for me for a few different reasons. This book was between Lawson and Hallie. Hallie is our female main character who has gone through something very traumatic, and this was definitely the most traumatic book that Catherine has written. Like the gruesome things that Hallie went through are described in not quite extreme detail, but there were details about it, and like the things that happened were quite gruesome. And so I just want you to be aware of that this is definitely a more intense situation for our female main character, and it is definitely the most graphic of Catherine Cowell that I've read. She went through something really horrible, and Lawson, our MMC, actually ends up saving her. Years later, she ends up coming back to Cedar Ridge to be a nanny, and she doesn't know who the family is going to be. We then have Lawson, who is our town sheriff. He has 3 boys who he needs a little bit of help with and needs a nanny. I think you guys can see where this goes. This is a bit of an age gap nanny romance, and while I enjoyed it, I think that it leaned very heavily on the prologue of the connection that they had when she was suffering and he found her. I also found that there were just like a lot of little things that kind of bothered me throughout this book, such as the use of bruh constantly by one of the boys, and a few modern references, especially when Fourth Ring was referenced. I was like, what is going on? I definitely like more like vague references to modern things, which Catherine normally does really well. And the suspense in this book I found very interesting because I was obviously very invested in the case that Lawson was studying, and I found that to be very compelling. However, I didn't love who the final killer was, but I won't get into any of the reasoning because I don't want to spoil your reading experience. So there were just a few things that I didn't really love, but I love Cedar Ridge. I love seeing the town, and I really enjoyed Hallie's relationship with the boys, especially especially the eldest, who really took on like a protective role, and she really understood him and saw him in a different light, which I really enjoyed as well. I think that everyone's going to be talking about this book in their February wrap-up, and that is Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. Now, I have a lot of complicated emotions with this book, so we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk through it. I give this book 3.5 stars, and it is about our main character, Lucas, and Scarlett. Now, Lucas and Scarlett are both college students, and Lucas is a very strong swimmer. He's an Olympic gold medalist, and Scarlett is a diver, so they have a little bit of a forced proximity at the pool, and a lot of their friends kind of overlap. And this is definitely Ali's spiciest book yet, and she does say that there are some explorations in different dynamics in intimate times. I think my biggest thing with this book is it was an unofficial love triangle in some aspects, because Pen, who is Lucas's ex-girlfriend and Scarlett's best friend, played a large role in this book, to the point where I almost felt that Scarlett at times was a bit of a side character, and I was very frustrated by that. I think that while the dynamic is interesting in exploring how like messy college relationships can be, especially in close proximity with people you spend a lot of time with, and with the different things that were going on in our main characters' lives as they were college athletes trying to get into med school, have all these different pressures on them. But there was just way too much Pen for me personally, and I just could not handle the amount of like third person in this relationship. And that's just my personal reading taste. I think that if you don't have such a strong aversion to love triangles, or you don't need that large amount of time with the couple to fall madly in love with them like I do, like I need to be with that couple, like I need them to be together, I need to see it so that I start to fall in love with them, and I just didn't get that in this book. So for my personal reading taste, it didn't work super great, but I can see how amazing this book could be for someone who is okay with that, or like more okay with that. I will also say that the exploration of kink in this book was very minimal, but I also want to preface that this is the first time that these characters are experiencing this kind of relationship where they're able to explore these things, and so I think that it's reasonable to assume that there's not going to be a huge amount of kink in the book, though I did think that the warning was a bit not extreme, but it was definitely alluding to something greater than just some power exchange things going on, which is okay. I just had my expectations in a different place. We now have one of my top 2 favorite books that I read in the month of February, and that was Scythe and Sparrow by Brynne Weaver. It is no secret that I am a lover of dark romance, especially dark romance comedies like the Ruinous Love Trilogy series, because oh my gosh, this was honestly the most perfect ending to this series, because this weaved all of the books overarching together into this story. This book is about our main character, Fionn. He is a doctor, and he is the youngest brother of the Kane siblings. We then have Rose, who is a member of the circus who gets injured and actually breaks into Fionn's medical clinic, and the two meet, and Fionn ends up taking care of Rose while she's healing and cannot be in the circus while she's recovering. This book was so good. I gave it 4.5 stars. I had the most amazing time. As always, this book series excels on audio. This book is filled with all of Brynne Weaver's classic situations, humor, and banter. There was even a Grey's reference with Fionn being McSpicy. Like, honestly, I just had so much fun. Like, these are books that you just read them and you love them. Like, they're gonna have things that normally would like peeve me, such as McSpicy. However, when it's put into this context, when Brynne writes it, I love it. We also have Barbara, who is our raccoon friend, who is so much fun. And honestly, this story just weaves all of the plots together so beautifully, because as you know, if you've read the other books in the series, Fionn and Rose are actually together, sort of, in the other books. So you get like snippets of when our main characters from other books come and visit these guys for help. Absolutely perfection, absolutely perfect. I love seeing all of my characters together. I loved how Brynne was able to do this story, and truly this series went out with a complete bang. This was such an amazing book. Our next book is going to be Beg, Borrow, and Steal by Sarah Adams. Now, this is the first Sarah Adams book that I've ever read, and I am curious to check out some of her other books. However, this book is definitely for the Nora lovers of Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Like, if you read Book Lovers by Emily Henry and you said, Nora is me, I love Nora, and I am Nora, I think that Emily in Beg, Borrow, and Steal is going to be right up your alley. She is an older sister who's trying to keep her life together, and she's such an interesting character. So our book is about Emily, who is an elementary school teacher. She's trying to keep her life together, and she has a workplace rival. So we were very excited when Jack left with his fiance, and now suddenly Jack is back, and it's very frustrating. He has a secret identity as a writer that nobody knows about, and he is also a second grade teacher, and the banter that these two have with the email exchanges was so much fun. I love a good email exchange in a book, and these two had some very fun ones. The two end up in an interesting situation when Jack realizes that Emily is a romance author when she needs his help, and the two then embark on like trying to help Emily with her book, and then learning how to be friends and dealing with different family situations. And overall, it was a very cute story, but it leaned very heavy on the chronic older sister taking on the role of like a caregiver and very stressed about her siblings, so I didn't have that attachment. However, I did enjoy reading about bookish people because that's one of my favorite things to do, and Emily's cat Ducky was absolutely adorable. The next book that I read was one that I've been wanting to read for for a while, and when I saw that my library got a copy, I immediately picked it up. It is Raiders of the Lost Heart. Now, this is a book about two archaeologists who are actually rivals that are put on the same expedition, shall we say, in the rainforest, and the two must then get along in order to find these missing objects and this missing person named Mendoza from thousands and thousands of years ago. Now, our female main character has a very special connection to this person, so she is very interested in it, but she wasn't originally selected to be on the dig, so tensions are high when her rival recruits her to be on this dig. I found the archaeology aspects of the story to be very intriguing, but I didn't really love our two main characters together, and that is definitely, again, personal reader preference. I think that this month was definitely a month where some things just didn't jive with me as a personal reader. This book had very, very instant lust, very, very instant attraction. It really pulled on the history of the two characters from years ago that we just found out, and then immediately had us sexualizing the main characters, and that was where it didn't really work for me entirely. I think that it was very abrupt and very on the nose. Like within the second chapter, I know for certain we were already like sexualizing, and I was like, this is just not my vibes. It just felt very jarring at times where I was like, oh, why are we talking about this right now? Like it doesn't really relate to things that are going on. The next book that I ended up reading was my third Catherine Cowles, and that was Delicate Escape. This is the second book in the Sparrow Falls series by her, and honestly, I have to say, I don't know why the Sparrow Falls series doesn't entirely work for me. I fell in love with Broken Harbor, and I formed some really strong attachments in that book to the characters and into the family. However, I don't know why it's not translating into earlier books for me, as I enjoy the family overall, but the love interests in the first two books just have not worked for me. I DNF'd the first book at around 75-80%. There was 2 hours left on my Kindle, and then this was the second book that I was hesitant to pick up because I wasn't entirely certain on how I felt about it after their meet cute, because it just felt very like contradicting in some aspects to what was happening. So Shep and Thea are our main characters. Shep is part of the Coulson family. He was adopted as a baby after being left at a fire station. He holds a lot of guilt because of what happened in the first book, which you do have to read because let me tell you, it's name dropped a bunch of times who the killer was in the first book, Fragile Sanctuary. So just FYI for that. And Shep is a big construction guy in the town, building these houses and merging modern with new. We then have Thea, who is a heroine in hiding, who is on the run from an ex-boyfriend who did some very, very vile things to her in her past. And Thea is very shy and very, it's not standoffish, but kind of standoffish due to being petrified. And so our meet cute happens and Chef's immediately ribbing her. And I was like, dude, what is going on? What is going on here? And her nickname Thorn, I thought, came from being a gardener and working at the garden center and having a green thumb. But no, it's because she's prickly. And I was like, dude, you've watched this girl for months. You know she's petrified. She's not prickly like a thorn. I don't know. I just think that the reason for him calling her Thorn was really like tone deaf to her character and him observing her for months. And so that really just like put a wrench in things. However, with saying that, I did fall in love with them as a couple later on into the book because he was so attentive to her and he was so present of her boundaries and like so respectful and so like patient. Yet I don't understand that first interaction. I don't understand it. However, I gave this book 3.25 stars because I loved them towards the end. I thought that him respecting her boundaries in that way and constantly reassuring her was very, very nice, especially when Thea just needed someone who like fully respected her boundaries and what she was able to give at the time that she was able to give it. I also love the animals in Catherine Cowles' books, like Moose, our main coon. He is so grumpy and I love him. I also love the suspense elements in Catherine Cowles' book, and this was no different. I loved how things played out and what was going on. However, that intro just really threw me as a reader, and I don't know why. Like, I don't know why I'm making it such a big deal, but it was apparently. So I'm giving the book 3.25 stars. The last book that I have to talk to you guys about today is Tattered Stars by Catherine Cowles. Now, I want to say this first thing really, really quickly for you guys because these covers, the independently published covers, are actually out of print already. So if you were interested in reading the Tattered and Torn series by Catherine Cowles, definitely get your hands on the covers now because apparently this was announced months ago. Apparently this was announced back in September of like 2024 or something like that these covers were going away, and I didn't know that because it was really buried on Catherine's Instagram. So if you love the independently published versions of Tattered and Torn, please, please, please go get them now because I don't know how long they're going to be in stock. But now, back to our regular scheduled programming of my thoughts of Tattered Stars. This has got to be one of my favorite Catherine Cowles books and was such an amazing book to end the month off on. This is about Everly and Hayes. Hayes is a sheriff in town and he has a big responsibility on his chest of making sure that everyone stays safe in the small town because of elements that happened in the past with his family and also the town in general. We then have Everly, whose prologue absolutely engrossed me in this story. Like, oh my god, I don't think that there has been a more engrossing prologue because holy crap, I was like, what is going on here? Everly is coming back to the town of Wolf's Gap after her family exiled her from their cultish situation. So Everly is a vet tech and she's now back in Wolf's Gap and she has dreams of opening a sanctuary. She now has the property that her family grew up in that she wants to turn into something good and something new. She is immediately met with the prickly sheriff because Hayes obviously has a lot of things going through his head and a lot of negative emotions tied to her family for what his family was put through by hers. The family dynamic that is explored in this book was so interesting because there are brewing tensions within Hayes's family, but they're also so loving, and Hayes isn't necessarily the one who's getting the most of the backlash. So it's a very interesting family dynamic, unlike anything I've ever read from Catherine. And the town with Everly's family being kind of like a cult sovereign citizen-esque situation was so intriguing to read about, and I was just on the edge of my seat. I was hooked the entire time. I was so engrossed. This one's definitely a bit lower on the suspense aspect, but I have to say it was still done beautifully, and I was still suspensed. And there were still moments where I was like, what is going on? What is happening? And the best part about this book, to which I will not spoil, after 7 completed Catherine Cowell's books, this was my 8th, I finally guessed who the killer was. And let me tell you, it's not because it was bad. It's not because she dropped so many hints. It's because I had luck on my side and I got the motive, and it was delightful. I honestly want to give this 5 stars simply because I was able to crack the code, because it was so well full done and I just feel so smart. Loved this story. I loved this book. I loved these characters. I loved the exploration of this different family dynamic and different town dynamic. I loved everything about the story. Alrighty, everybody, so those are all of the books that I have to talk to you guys about today. It was definitely very interesting reading month. I found some new all-time favorites with Scythe and Sparrow and Tattered Stars. There also were some misses. There were also some more 3 stars where there are aspects that I like and then aspects that didn't entirely work for me. However, I still do think that they could work for some readers, and it was a lot of my personal taste as a reader just like not lining up with some aspects of these books. However, it was so fun to sit down and talk to you guys today, especially because it's so sunny outside. Like, I think I'm gonna go take Lulu on a walk. Like, it is a gorgeous day outside, and I hope that you're able to enjoy the sunshine if it's out for you when you're watching this. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I cannot wait to see you guys in the next one, whatever video that may be. I hope that you all had a great reading month in February. I'll have a great reading month in March, and I'll see you guys later. Bye, everybody.